What's up, everyone? Good morning, or good afternoon, or wherever you are. I guess whatever time of day it is. So we are back for another family education and support group, and this is one of those ones that I love to mix these into the education that I always provide, and to bring back real life examples of human beings that are not paid actors or actresses or whatever like you want to call them into this space to be able to talk about their, we call it experience, strength, and hope, but to be able to demonstrate what is possible and what is available and what is accessible in the journey of recovery. Okay, so let me do a quick introduction of myself, then I'm going to introduce our guest, and we'll go from there. So my name is Param. You can see me here each and every single Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, ready to do some family education and support. It's always a live stream, so when something's live, I want you to know that you have the ability and availability to ask questions, receive feedback. We cover various topics like addiction, mental health, communication, codependency, boundaries, a little bit of everything in between. And to everyone saying hi on the side chat, good morning, good morning. And so this one is an interview with an alumni, and it's an alumni that has been able to successfully accumulate 18 months of sobriety time and also 18 months of recovery time, because those two things are completely different. Someone can abstain from drugs and alcohol and not make any progress in their life, but someone can abstain from drugs and alcohol and also make progress in their life, whether that's at work or school, with family, relationships, trust, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to share with everyone watching what is, like I said, available and accessible. And our guest today, her name is Haley. What up, Haley?
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys. How are you? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And like I said to you before we got on, I'm really grateful for your willingness on a Saturday to come here and talk. And, I put this in our alumni Facebook group, and the first person to reach out was Haley, saying, I would love the opportunity to come share. So what we're going to do right now is go through this process, and I'll ask you some questions, give some feedback, and whoever family members, if you have questions about this stuff, or if you want me to stop and pause and talk about anything that Haley's talking about, just flag me and let me know. So all that being said, let's get into this. So Haley, question number one, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so when and where in your life, in your lifespan, in your timeline of life, when and where did you start having problems related to mental health or addiction? So take a walk down memory lane and let us know.
I would say from like the first time that I can actually remember being like, oh, I don't think normal people operate like this, was I was like entering high school, and I was just a mess in any way that you could fathom. My grades were good, but like I didn't have a social life. I was just isolating. My dad was working third shift, so I didn't have any like interaction even with my parents. I was like, this is nice. This is really nice. And then looking around, all of my friends had like these groups of friends that they would hang out with like after school or on the weekends, and I was just like at home hiding away from all of my like problems in high school.
Yeah, so when you say going into high school, so for anyone point of reference, we're talking 13, 14 years old, right? Something around there. And for you to say my grades were good. So that's one thing that I think families always miss, is when their loved ones' grades are doing okay, they perceive that everything's okay. It's a weird perception that family members have, is like grades correlate to doing okay in life. And that could definitely not be the case, because in your case, I do know you're highly intelligent, and I do know that you can retain information pretty quickly. So maybe getting good grades in high school wasn't a big challenge for you, especially right off the bat. But the part that she talked about was she had social deficiencies, so didn't feel like everything was the same with socially. And also at home, third shift is pretty much what we call overnight shift or graveyard. So when Haley was getting ready to go to sleep, that's when her father, in this case, was getting ready to go to work. So there was no family social interaction going on in the home and in her world either. So when did that type of lifestyle for you lead into the need or the desire or the want to, whether it was with substances or behaviors, to start using something to help alleviate some of the symptoms that you had potentially with anxiety or depression?
I started dabbling in like alcohol and like painkillers around 16, 15, 16, because I had an appendectomy where my appendix was taken out. So I had 2 full scripts of lore tabs. So that really kicked it off, and that really started the whole thing. But I didn't start doing like really hard stuff until I graduated high school.
Yeah, and at that point in your life, at 15 and 16 years old, after a medical procedure, getting prescriptions that were prescribed to you, 2 bottles with your name on them, did anybody in your world or in your life know that those kind of substances have the potential for abuse, or like were they regulated and watched, or they were kind of at your disposal?
It was an in between. My
Okay.
dad would give me like enough, what he thought would be enough for the day. And then it was typically way more than enough. So he
Yeah.
would give me like 10 for the day because I had like a script of like 90
Yeah.
or
And he
something
didn't know,
crazy.
right? Is it safe to say that your father didn't know at the time that 10 of those could potentially lead to some type of addiction problems?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be unfair for me to accuse him of like.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Haley, most parents don't know actually, because the doctor is the person that we all trust. And after a serious medical procedure, any family member would want their child, especially a young child, to not go through pain. So they take the trust of the doctor, take the medication, and trust the process. When you're saying that was when you first got exposed, like it woken up the beast. It kind of like knocked on the door of like, I like the way this feels.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what your father's thinking. He just wants you not to feel bad. But you psychologically, emotionally are starting to get something out of that use. So at that point, safe to say, it didn't turn into daily use, correct?
Correct.
And you said once you got out of high school?
Yes.
So did you finish high school successfully?
I did. I finished, graduated with honors even a year early.
Okay.
So made my parents proud in that aspect. But as soon as I turned 18, it was just like World War III on myself.
Yeah. And let's just catch that real quick, because I want everyone to hear what Haley said, that in high school, she was graduated with honors 1 year early. So if you're a mom or dad or family member or grandparent sitting back watching this Haley show, you're like, gosh, she's great. This is exactly what we wanted. Our kids thriving, doing well. But underneath the underbelly of all that, so what couldn't be seen was what you were probably experiencing within yourself. And as soon as you turn 18, and that's kind of the year of freedom, if you will, you know, we kind of become adults. What changed in your life that all of a sudden, as you call World War III, happened? Like, how did you go from being so compliant and graduating a year early of high school? Congratulations, by the way. Most people have a hard time doing that. What happened that you kind of flipped the script and just changed the narrative?
I moved out of my parents' house. So after 18 years of being compliant, I finally saw a chance to be defiant and do all the things they said not to do, right? So I got a job, and then I had my own money. And I had bills to pay, but they weren't like real bills, so to speak. It was just rent. I didn't have to pay for anything else. So I would go out and then I would buy whatever was available. Typically at the time it was weed, because I was scared of the other things. And then it was just like something clicked, and then I couldn't stop. I didn't know I couldn't stop. I was still making excuses at that point of like, oh, I'm just having fun. I'm doing what kids do. And then 5 years go by, or 4 years go by, and then all of a sudden I'm homeless. I don't have a license. I don't have a car. I'm down to 85 pounds, super unhealthy. So it really just happened like that. And as far as the memory of what happened in between point A and point B, there's very little.
Yeah.
I can kind of remember the end and kind of remember the beginning, but like what happened in the middle, it's all a blur.
Yeah, I bet. And can you tell us a little bit, so the initial stage of the fear of buying other substances, or just, you know, not wanting to do something, when did that cross the line that the substances became other substances that you had? Because when you're living on the streets, 85 pounds, at that point, it's safe to say that anything and everything's on the table. So
Right.
when did that flip that you didn't care about the dangers or the risk associated with the substance use?
I was working third shift or overnight at a Waffle House, and I had friends coming in. I'd made friends with the other employees working there, and they would always come in like happy, jumpy, bouncy, like what seemed to me like they were just always in a really good mood. And I was like, I need whatever they got, you know? And it happened to be meth. And so they let me try it, and then I ended up buying it. And from then on, I was obsessed with it. I couldn't get it out of my brain. I was like, okay, so like doing the math of like, hey, when can I go ahead and get high again? Like if I got high this time, so it doesn't look like I have a problem.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, this is simultaneously happening at the time when you thought that, oh, it's my age, it's because of XYZ, it's because of blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So it's really important for people to hear this, to know that it's called rationalization, justification. So what people do when they're using substances, they find any way possible to make sense of it in a way, because a part of them know it doesn't make sense to do methamphetamines just to get energy to go to work. I mean, that we all know that doesn't make sense, but when we watch the way it is and we feel the way it is, because it's a physical experience, you're like, okay, this is what I need to feel. I feel okay now. I feel normal now. And that led to you to, I'm assuming, how long did it take for you to get to homelessness from there? Because that's a really important thing to talk about.
I think it took just under like a year and a half. So it took about 18 months from the first time I tried meth to be homeless and on the streets.
Yeah, 18 months, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's and then so where's your relationship with family at this point? Tell us, walk us through kind of what they know, what they see, what they don't know, what they don't see.
So what they know is the whole story. I've been very open and honest about why this was such an important experience to come out here and get sober and like.
Well, actually, real quick, sorry to cut you off, Haley. At the time when you're going through the use, so like when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, what did they know and don't know? What did they see or didn't see at the time before you kept?
I didn't really talk to them much, so I don't think they saw anything. I'm sure they knew something was wrong, as most parents do. But as far as me telling them what's going on, there was none of that happening.
Yeah, so some of it was they were in the dark, but there is a spidey sense that turns on into parents with paternal instincts and stuff. They knew something was wrong. And when was it that they finally, the denial of parenting kind of broke in, or you started to say, hey, I have a serious problem? So before they got all supportive, what was that conversation or those moments like in your life and in their life?
It was really like I had like a moment of clarity where I was like looking in the mirror and I was like, what has happened?
Yeah.
And so I went to my mom's house and I was like, hey, something's not right. Something's not like going well in my life and I need help and I don't know what to do. And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. She was like, okay, like give me a day and then we'll find you like a treatment center to go to. And I was like, okay. I was just like so beaten down and worn at that point that I was just like, whatever you think will help, I'm down. Let's do it. And so they found me a treatment center in Tennessee, which is about 4.5 hours away from where I was at living. And I had a friend drive me up and they dropped me off for 30 days. So
did you have any opposition to the plan at all?
At first it was very much like, I don't want to do this and like this is bullshit. And then like in my head it was like, what other choice do you have? Like you can keep going like this and you're going to end up dead really soon, or you can just try it. Like it might work.
Yeah. And you know, the willingness to try the other option is something that I want to commend you on, because there's so many people that say, what's the point of this? Why should I do this? This is bullshit. It's 4 hours away. Why can't I go to somewhere closer to my hometown? What, well, you know, all that kind of stuff people say, but there was something inside you that said, let me at least give this a try. You know, and that's something that's unique to individuals who do recover, is the willingness to be open-minded, to try something different, which is what you did. And once you got into residential care, and you can name the facility, that's okay. If you want to give them a shout out, that's totally cool, because you know they could see it. I don't mind.
English Mountain Recovery. Yeah. It's the same treatment center Casey went to.
Yeah, for sure. So in Tennessee, English Mountain Recovery. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for the front end of this. But once you're in treatment, so now you're not living on the streets. You're not 85 pounds. You're not consuming methamphetamines. You're not homeless. All that kind of stuff. Now you're in a residential care. It's a completely different experience of life, like completely different. It's like, oh my God, now I'm just in a safe, secured environment. People seem like they care. They're talking about me, my life, how I'm going to recover. What was that like contrast, that polarity of life experience like at first?
At first, I would say for the first half of the time that I was there at the treatment center, I didn't trust anyone. I didn't really like want to get close to anyone. I was like just trying to like appease whatever they were asking me to do. So just doing the assignments, doing the book work, like talking to people, like hanging out. But I was like, as far as getting vulnerable and like being open with people, it was a hard no-go for me. Because
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like I'm crazy already, and I'm pretty sure I'm messed up. So I'm just not going to burden anyone else with this.
And then what happened in the second half of that? What was that shift? Let's talk about that shift, because you said the first half I was kind of closed off, not vulnerable, didn't want to, just what happened there?
I met like a really cool person. She actually ended up coming out here to California with me after she had finished, and I don't know what happened. It just like we clicked, and then I was like, "Hey, everything's gonna be fine. I'm in a strange place with strange people, but it's gonna be fine."
Yeah. I mean, safe to say, being on the streets is in a strange place with strange people, also.
Yeah, that's fair. But it
I
was
think
familiar.
I think we're always in strange places with strange people in life. But I'll tell you this: that so now the decision to go from Tennessee to California, right? This is something that had you ever traveled across country before?
I had flown to Nevada, Las Vegas one other time when I graduated high school with my aunt.
Okay.
And as far as flying alone, that had never happened.
That never happened. So that's safe to say that's a huge step. So when you're sitting there with your treatment team, with your family, with yourself, talking about going away to California for aftercare, what was that whole kind of experience like? Because I know there's family members that might be watching this that'll go through the same question.
It was really interesting to hear like what my parents were thinking, because originally I wanted to come back home. Immediately after treatment, I wanted to come back home. And Casey, one of the ladies that had worked for Buckeye and Chadwick House, had come to speak at my treatment center. And I was like, wow, I'm really seeing some similarities between our stories. And I talked to her, and I got the flyer for the Chadwick House, and I made some phone calls. And Matt Keogh said there was some openings at the Chadwick House, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good, pretty cool. And I had told my parents, like, hey, I think I need to go to California. And they were like, honestly, I am so glad that you decided to go anywhere but come back here.
Good.
So initially they were really supportive, and even though like the price difference was much like it's much more expensive out here than it is there, but they did the best they could and supported me until I could get my own job and pay my own rent. So it was really nice to have that like support and stable person in my life.
Yeah, I bet. And it's so congratulations on making the tour to come out here in California. And tell me, what was it like now because now you've given up your lifestyle, right? Today I was doing a talk for our program participants, which at one point in life you were in those talks too. But I told them this. I said, your new life is going to cost you your old life. Are you willing to pay that price? And it's safe to say when you went cross country to California, the old life that you had to make a choice. The new life was going to cost that old life. You can't have both, right? You can't be engaged in the old lifestyle and have this new life of recovery. So when you made that commitment to try this recovery world and stuff like that, how did your life change in the moment, and how did it change? How has it continued to change? So what's been the difference between the different way of living?
So I have real bills, a full-time job.
Can you tell me, wait, what's real? I need to know. Family members need to know what real bills are, because in life, all of us, me, you, and them, the family members, they all pay real bills. But sometimes when their loved ones come through the program, they're so hesitant to make them pay their bills because they're like, it's going to put too much stress on them and all that kind of stuff. So tell me what real bills are. Let's break this down.
So rent, groceries, car insurance, repairs for my car, anything that I want to go do. Like if I want to go out and let's say go bowling, I have to pay for that. If I want to go to dinner instead of cooking at home, I have to pay for that. That all falls on me, which is okay. It's something that took some getting used to. And thankfully it all came like one bill at a time. So now that I'm just used to having them, they're all auto drafted out of my account and it's fine.
Yeah. And congratulations on the gift of self-sufficiency, right? No, I'm serious. I know that sounds like a passive aggressive compliment, but it is a gift of self-sufficiency. You are 100% self-sufficient in your day-to-day life. I mean, in terms of, at least when it comes to finances, that's cool. I have a cat that comes through and visits when I talk to. So shout out to the cat. What's the cat's name?
Billy.
Billy. What's good, Billy? Hi, Billy.
He's being a menace.
Yeah, that's cool. So and to all family members watching this right now, I do want you to hear this from me, that there is nothing wrong with setting financial boundaries around the things that your kids want. Now, there's certain things that they might need that they may not be able to in early recovery to be able to acquire those things. And if you have the ability, there is nothing wrong with providing support for the things they need. However, the things that they want in recovery, make them earn it. Make them earn the things that they want. Make them have some skin in the game. Make them pay at least minimum of half to 75% of it, and see if you can cover the rest. Because every single time you get them something they want, you disable them and disempower them to ever understand that they can do it on their own. And that's okay. It's cute and dandy when they're 18, 19 years old, but when they're 35, 40 years old, it's not cute anymore. And if anything, it's deterring it's disabling them in the recovery process. So can you tell me, in regards to your family relations and also like personal relations and social relations, can you tell me how those things have changed or improved over the course of recovery?
I just went back home and did, I wouldn't say a second round of amends, but I made amends to my dad, which was great. It ended up going well, despite all of the resistance I'd been putting up to it now for, I don't know, like 7 months, 8 months. But with my family, it's improved so very much. I can call my mom and she doesn't have to worry about like if something's wrong, like if I'm hurt or if I'm dying or if someone's just calling her off my phone. Which is something that she told me about during, like, when I made amends to her. She was like, I was just so scared that I was going to get a phone call that you weren't even here anymore. Yeah. So thankfully, me moving out here and doing the whole process has relieved that fear from her. Thankfully. Yeah. My stepdad has been an absolute angel in my life, a huge like pillar of support. And I'm slowly but surely getting the rest of the family amends like out of the way before I start making amends to friends and other people I had harmed along the way.
Good for you. And just so everyone knows what she's talking about here, one of the processes that we go through in the recovery process is this thing called working the steps. And in working the steps, the 12 steps of whatever recovery program, let's just call it, is it AA, NA? What are you working here when you were working through this?
AA.
Okay, so through the process of working the AA steps, there is an 8th step that we write down a list of all the people that we have harmed, right? So we literally write them all down. And the 9th step of it is that we become willing to make amends to those people we've harmed, unless doing so would injure them or others. So you never want to make an amends that's going to add more hurt or pain to somebody, because that's not what we do in recovery. But to be able to sit down with mom, dad, stepdad, all these people that were going through the pain of addiction with us, oftentimes without the use of substances themselves. Now, it's easy to be comfortably numb going through the addiction process. Haley said from 18 to 22, she barely remembers anything, right? But from 18 to 22, mom remembers a lot. She feels a lot. You know, there's a lot of it's a different experience. So when we get right with ourselves, we got to get right with them. And then it's a process that I'm well aware that you know this because of how you're living your life right now, is that we go through living amends, right? So we continue to make amends for what we did wrong. And how long do we continue doing that? In my opinion, Haley, it's forever.
Yeah,
right? Like living amends just keeps on going. It's a gift that keeps on giving, not only to us but to them. And so congratulations on that. And tell us what you're doing right now in terms of whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's life, you know, whatever you want to share, where you're living, how you're living. Just feel free to kind of give us the glimpse of the differences between homelessness, 85 pounds, methamphetamines, to where you are right now.
So I currently live in Redondo Beach with my fiance, who we just celebrated our anniversary in the middle of January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And then I have a job at a mental health / addiction treatment, sober living. So I deal with, you know, very much the same people that I was a year and a half ago, that's struggling with anything from just really gnarly anxiety to like BPD or, you know, any of that spectrum of things. I'm also in school. I'm only taking 2 classes because I work full time so I can pay my real bills. And I have a 4.0 GPA right now, which is more than I could have ever imagined having in college. That's honestly about it. I've got a really nice community and circle of friends that I don't have to worry about being shady in any way, and that hold me accountable.
I like how you said that's just it. It's like it's so much in 18 months, Haley. You went from being I mean, I say this with respect, a street creature. That's what we become when we're on the street. We really do. You went from being a street creature to being someone that is in college, that is working a real grown-up job, that is in a real grown-up relationship, that is healthy, that is happy, that is thriving. And I'd never want you to minimize that or think that's just it. That's just, and by the way, that's the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? Like when you look at this 18 months from now, if we have the opportunity to have a conversation or 5 years down the line, you're going to look back at this version of yourself and see the same amount of growth and progress that you've made from the streets till now, from this moment till that moment. And that's the beauty of recovery. So someone put a question here, Chris, I'm going to answer this or have Haley answer this. It said, Haley, is work ever a trigger for you? So working around the same population, if you will.
It was at the beginning, like when I first started working in sober livings, I had 6 months sober. So if we had someone use in the house, it took everything in me to not just be like, all right, I'm out of here too. Now that I have 18 months and a little bit of experience working with the population, I don't think it's as much of a trigger for me. It just makes me feel grateful about where I stand in my sobriety to be able to help them the same way that my house manager and all of the employees at Chadwick House helped me.
That's a great answer. And let's see if I could help you provide some more insight on this, because I know you're doing something more than that too. So let's say if you get triggered, right? Let's say someone comes in, they're really dysregulated. They're really having a hard time. They're not compliant. They're just mean, that kind of stuff, because they're struggling within themselves. If you get triggered, what would Haley do in this time of your life in recovery to be able to work through that without picking up substances? So what would be your go-to?
My first go-to is always to call another alcoholic, whether it be my fiance or a friend, or it could just be whoever's available at the time. Have a quick chat with them. Not necessarily need advice, but just checking in on someone else usually helps me get out of my head and stop obsessing about whatever it is that triggered me. The second course of action is always call my sponsor, who I usually ask for advice, because she's super smart, has 6 years of sobriety, and someone that I absolutely admire. And then the third thing that I typically do is go to a meeting. I haven't been going to enough meetings recently, but that's typically what happens when I get triggered. It's like, oh, this is happening inside me. I recognize this feeling. So I've trained my feet well enough to know when I need to go to a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, I mean, I don't really have much experience. I don't know who Chris is, but he said that's a beautiful answer. Thank you. And congratulations on finding yourself amongst the thorns. And I do believe in that. Cataline, which is someone that, I know, a wonderful human being, said, congratulations, Haley, you shine and you speak so well. You are an inspiration. Jim, which was one of our counselors, said the gifts of recovery. Julian, which I know said, super proud of you for staying sober, truly inspirational. You got some love. George said, I love her.
George.
Sarah said, hey, Haley with a heart. Some family members here said, thank you, Haley, for willingness to share. I want you to know what you're doing right now, even though this seems like, hey, it's just a conversation. This will be in the database, and there's going to be so many moms, dads, spouses, significant others, children that are going to watch this moment in your life and say, wait, my kid right now is struggling on the street, struggling with mental health. Oh, by the way, what mental health challenges did you have outside substance abuse? Was it depression, anxiety? Was it anything else? Can you just shed light on that? Because oftentimes when we use, it's not just because meth gives us energy. It also does something for our coping skills too. So what were you using it for?
So I think I was really depressed.
Okay.
Note that I have not been diagnosed by a mental health professional at any point in life, because I kind of don't want to be. So I'm just kind of living life on life's terms. But I think I was really struggling with depression and untreated anxiety, which is a really gnarly mix for some reason. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do very basic human things. Take care of the dog, take care of myself. I didn't want to do that. I was too, what my parents would have said at that point in time was just laziness.
Yeah.
And after a while of using meth, I was just kind of like delirious, just in total psychosis. So I don't know where the moment of clarity came from, but thank God it did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually, for anyone watching this, it's not just the substances people are using for. A lot of human beings self-medicate stuff like anxiety, depression, past traumas, guilt and loss, a lot of low self-esteem. There's a lot of it's different for everyone, so I can't say everyone's the same, but they do provide some of that. And then we had Lisa. First of all, shout out to Lisa. Always good to hear from you, but she also wanted you to know that you're truly inspirational. I'm sure your parents are thankful for your continued sobriety and proud of your recovery. And that's actually another mom right there. So this has been great. So I want to ask one or two final questions. Okay. Number one, what is your why? What's your reason? What's your why? What's your motivation to continue on this path?
To continue staying sober?
Yeah.
Why? Okay. So even in my absolute best moments, the best feeling that I ever had while I was using doesn't even equal the same feelings of my worst moments now. Yeah. So just emotionally I feel better. My highs are high and then my lows are low, but it's not at all like what it was. It's not as steep.
Yeah, when you said this is, thank you for that. That just resonated a lot in my own world. But when you said you had that moment of clarity, you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, what the F am I doing with my life? It's safe to say when you look in the mirror now, you actually kind of are starting to like the reflection looking back at you.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good reflection. I'm glad you're starting to like it. And lastly, and someone else here, this is a counselor that you don't know though. I just wanted you to know that he is proud of you. He's a good guy. He said that is rad, right on, proud of you. He's been working in the field for a while. And the last question I have is for you. If there's another boy, girl, man, woman, husband, wife, grandkid, whatever the heck relation that's out there right now struggling with drugs and alcohol, and you had the opportunity to tell him, her, or they what the heck, tell them some words of wisdom of some words of encouragement, hope, wisdom. What would you tell that person who's struggling right now that may be watching this or their family member might be watching this?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would probably tell them what I struggled with the most. Those people giving you drugs, your drug dealer and the drugs, they don't love you and they never will. Go back home, to your parents, ask for help, go do something because you can. It's not too late.
Yeah, right on. Because you can and it's not too late. Let's just leave with that. So Haley, this was phenomenal. I really want you to know that. Feel free to share this as a shareable link on our Facebook with anyone you want that you feel comfortable with. It'll be on the Buckeye Recovery Network page. If anybody else watching this wants to share this, feel free to. And I want to thank you personally for the time you took this morning. And I hope this was a nice moment in your life that you were able to reflect back on who and what you were in the past and who and what you are right now. But most importantly, get excited about who and what you're going to be in your future. Okay. All right, Haley. Thank you so much for your time. Love and appreciate you. Okay.
Love and appreciate you.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.